Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here on behalf of SEC, representing the Director General, as has been said by Toyin. And if you look closely, I'm actually linked with his Zoom link. So I'm here representing him. So I'm going to read his keynote address as he has prepared it for this occasion. He's attending to some other official matters. That is why he's not able to be here this morning to make the presentation himself. So I'll just read his address the way he has prepared it. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please permit me to stand on protocols already established. It is my singular honor and privilege to give the keynote address at this forum on behalf of the Securities and Exchange Commission. We commend the Institute of Chartered Secretaries of Nigeria, ICSAN, for its excellent work over the years as the standard-setting body for chartered secretaries in Nigeria, particularly as it pertains to the entrenchment of sound corporate governance principles in entities and institutions. It is equally pleasing to know that some top-level staff of the Commission are members of your esteemed institute. The Commission is hopeful of consolidating its cordial relationship with ICSAN in the coming years towards the actualization of important reforms in the Nigerian financial system. The theme of this event is topical and timely, one which speaks directly to the thorny issues that has dominated national discourse over the last few months. This, of course, is the passage of the Finance Bill 2020 as its provisions in respect of unclaimed dividend, as well as monies in dormant bank accounts. Given the Commission's mandate as apex regulator of the Nigerian capital market, this keynote address would focus largely on issues pertaining to the management of unclaimed dividends of public companies in Nigeria. The challenge of unclaimed dividends in the Commission's this is our response. Simply put, unclaimed dividends refers to total dividend amount not claimed by their respective owners after declaration of dividends by companies. Owing to the requirements of the use of dividend warrants under the repealed CAMA 1990, amongst other factors, the quantum of unclaimed dividends of public companies continue to rise steadily, peaking to a figure of about 188 billion naira in December 2020. In an effort to decisively and frontally address the challenges in 2014, the SEC, in furtherance of its powers under Section 3131N of the ISA 2007, and with the support of the Central Bank of Nigeria and other stakeholders, constituted an industry-wide technical subcommittee to work on a roadmap for the creation and adoption of an e-dividend policy. Members of the technical subcommittee were drawn from the SEC, the CBN, the Institute of Capital Market Registrars, Central Securities Clearing System, the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System, the Association of Stockbroking Houses of Nigeria, ASHON, and the Committee of Heads of Bank Operations. Although at the time of the constitution of the technical committee, dividends were already being paid electronically by some registrars and companies, this initiative was not systemic and only involved a handful of shareholders of public companies. Accordingly, the committee recommended the configuration and automation of an electronic dividend mandate management system, the EDMMS. After painstaking work, the EDMMS portal was launched in 2015. The Commission embarked on massive enlightenment campaigns to sensitize shareholders on the in-dividend initiative and the benefits of subscribing to it by getting their shares mandated on the EDMMS portal. To encourage shareholders to buy into the initiative for over a year of its commitment, the Commission reached an agreement with the CBN, NIBs, and banks to execute mandate orders free of cost. We are pleased to report that at the end of 2020, about 29 billion shareholders have claimed their shares and are mandated under the DMMS portal. The current reality, however, is that in spite of the e-dividend rollout, the quantum of e-dividend linked to public companies has continued to rise. This does not suggest that the e-dividend initiative is not achieving its intended purpose. Rather, it is owed to the fact that companies are declaring even higher dividends, and that while about 1.36 million shareholders had been mandated on the ED MMS portal as at March 2020. Many more are yet to do so for varying reasons. Now, the Finance Act 2020 addressing controversies in respect of management of unclaimed dividend. As you're aware, the federal government stepped in through the Finance Act 2020, which states in Section 60 that unclaimed dividend of 6 years and above should be paid by companies into the Unclaimed Funds Trust Fund, which is a sub-fund of the Crisis Intervention Fund. Section 76 of the Finance Act states that the monies in the Crisis Intervention Fund will be utilized for making funds available to meet expenditure as provided in the Annual Appropriation Act, to meet any crisis-related expenditure or other such exigencies as may arise pursuant to Section 12 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act and Section 306 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Predictably, from the time of the exposure of the Finance Bill, as it then was, until its enactment into law, concerns were raised by various groups about the provisions relating to the management of unclaimed dividend in public companies and the establishment of the trust fund. Many held the opinion that the government was attempting to confiscate investors' monies. Others criticized the decision of government to use investors' monies to meet its financial obligations. A proper reading of the Act would, however, allay some of these fears. The Act in Section 77 clearly provides that the Unclaimed Dividend Trust Fund is a sub-fund of the Crisis Intervention Fund and provides for a governing council to run the operations of the fund. It is important to note that the idea of a trust fund for unclaimed dividend is not a novel idea. An Unclaimed Dividend Trust Fund bill was previously considered by the National Assembly, but eventually not passed. Accordingly, the intention was to accomplish the same purpose through the Finance Act 2020 in a manner that would be beneficial to the interest of all stakeholders. It is expedient to definitely put to rest any lingering controversy surrounding the Finance Act 2020 as it relates to unclaimed dividends and the UFTF. Firstly, Section 60 of the Act is an amendment to Section 432 of CAMA 2020, which stipulates the forfeiture of unclaimed dividends after 12 years to a paying company. Under the Finance Act, rather than forfeiture, the monies will be placed in the trust fund, and there is no time limit for claims by shareholders. This is significant given that a substantial component of the quantum of unclaimed dividends accrue to individuals who have died, whose dividends the beneficiaries or relatives of the deceased shareholders are making efforts to claim. Also, shareholders who are unable to be mandated on the EDMMS portal by virtue of being out of the country or for some other reason can now do so without the pressure of the possibility of forfeiting their dividends through the exclusion of time. In fact, such unclaimed dividend transferred to the fund shall be a special debt owed by the federal government to the shareholders and should be available for claim by the shareholders at any time. Crucially, Section 77.5 of the Finance Act make provisions for the establishment of the governing council for the trust fund, with the Minister of Finance as chairperson and a seasoned practitioner from the private sector as a co-chairperson, whose appointment by the President must be confirmed by the Senate. The board of the trust fund includes the CBN, the SEC, the NDIC, a representative of the registrars, and 2 representatives of Shareholders Association. The composition of the board provides the needed balance to ensure transparency in the administration of the monies in the fund and the protection of all interests. Under Section 78 of the Finance Act, the Debt Management Office, which serves as the secretariat of the fund, is required to prepare a comprehensive plan for the utilization of monies in the fund and present a report to the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation on an annual basis for audit. This is an important safeguard to forestall mismanagement or misappropriation of the monies in the fund. In the day-to-day running of the affairs of the fund, the DMO is also required to liaise with the SEC and the CBN. This provides as an additional layer of oversight and scrutiny of the utilization of monies in the trust fund. The Securities and Exchange Commission, by virtue of Section 3131N of the ISA, has the powers to prescribe, as it deems appropriate, necessary rules for dealing with unclaimed dividends. Pursuant to these powers, the Commission has enshrined in its rules and regulations provisions for the treatment of unclaimed dividend consistent with the provisions of CAMA 2020. Some of these provisions are still relevant and are not in conflict with the Finance Act. And paying companies and registrars are expected to still comply with these provisions. The Commission will, however, take a holistic review of its existing rules on unclaimed dividend and ensure that they are in agreement with the provisions of the Finance Act. In concluding this address, I therefore firmly believe that rather than being detrimental to the interests of shareholders, the trust fund, if properly managed, will be critical to safeguarding investment and returns of investors, thereby sustaining confidence in the Nigerian capital market. However, the establishment of the trust fund does not detract from the central message of the SEC, which is that while dealing with the quantum of existing unclaimed dividends, we must do everything possible to prevent newly declared dividends from becoming unclaimed by encouraging shareholders who have not been mandated on the DMMS platform to do so, especially before their dividend becomes 6 years old. I respectfully urge this forum to constructively discuss ways of carrying out the good intent of the Act, which would include effective monitoring of the trust fund and proposing more extensive safeguards and checks in the management of the monies in the fund. As a Commission, we would also be delighted to receive recommendations on mechanisms to ensure massive enrollment of shareholders and investors on the eDMMS portal. I wish you all fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Anastasia Brymo of the Securities and Exchange Commission. We understand from your address that the Commission is open to recommendations and constructive feedback, which is what we hope to achieve by today's discussion. Thank you very much again, ma'am.